Hi, I'm Melissa Chalker, Executive Director of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. Welcome to Aging Insights. Aging Insights is a production of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging, and NJFA's mission is to enable New Jersey older adults to live with independence and dignity in their communities. Aging Insights is supported through sponsorships and viewer donations. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, please visit our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org or call us at 609-421-0206 for more information. Today we're going to talk about housing. In 2018, NJFA worked with a group of stakeholders to develop a policy recommendation report on this issue. We'd like to spend some time today exploring the issues facing older adults when it comes to finding or staying in a safe, affordable, and accessible home. Today I'm joined by three advocates who will help us better understand the issues. In the studio with me are Stacy Berger, President and CEO of the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey, Diane Riley, Executive Director of the Supportive Housing Association of New Jersey, and Ann Lapel, Chair of the Montclair Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Well, welcome and thank you all for taking time. I know, as I in the intro said, you're all really great advocates, and so I know that makes you really busy, so I really appreciate the time that you've committed to spending with me today to talk about this. So I did want to start with you, Stacy, because I don't know if people know what the Housing and Community Development Network is and all the great work that you and your staff do. So could you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Melissa. So we're the statewide association of nonprofit community development organizations. Folks may be familiar with some of our really popular organizations like Habitat for Humanity, those kinds of organizations that are engaged in building both home ownership opportunities and less well-known organizations in their neighborhoods, from shelters and nonprofits that provide rental assistance and rental opportunities. So we have a whole range of folks who do a bunch of different kinds of things all across the state, for about 150 nonprofit organizations and another 100 or so private sector partners, lending institutions, banks, public entities and agencies, and supporters who care about making sure that everyone has a safe, affordable place to call home.
I think that's a really good description of who your membership is and some of the things you do. Could you explain a little bit about how you work with your membership and maybe some of the things that the information that you share with them to help them better do their jobs?
Sure. So we have sort of three buckets of work. The first is policy and advocacy, and we spend a lot of time at the State House and in the halls of Congress and working with local elected officials to make sure that the resources and policy environment exist for nonprofit community developers to do the really important work of making sure everyone has a safe place to live. We also do technical assistance and training. Our network is the state's largest certified HUD counseling entity in the state, so we actually supervise other counseling agencies, and we work directly with the federal government to make sure that we do good housing counseling so people are getting the information that they need. And then we do some innovation in the field. We look at what other state associations are doing around the country, or best practices, or neat things like developing a community scholars program for interns over the summer. So we have a paid internship program for juniors, seniors, and graduate level students where we actually embed them in with nonprofit organizations so they can get a sense of what it's like to work in the field.
Yeah, that's great. You know, as an organization that benefited from your Community Scholars Program, we had a great experience with an intern that was with us through your program. And so, you know, to speak to the innovation and training, you also have conferences and forums that you do occasionally, right, to make sure that we're bringing people together around topics and issues and providing people with sort of that next big thing, right, or the models that can be replicated.
Right, so one of the big things that we've taken on over the last four or 5 years is the nexus between health and housing, and we actually are moving our summit, which had been in the summer. That'll be April 29th this year. We're gonna make it a little earlier in the hopes that it'll bring a few more folks in the room. We had to get a bigger room, but that is really a developing part of the community development field, so that really tying together the health needs of individuals and the health outcomes and looking at housing as a social determinant of health. We know it doesn't really take it shouldn't take a lot of data because it's really rocket science. It's not really rocket science, rather, that, you know, having a safe, affordable place to live will deliver healthier experiences for people. They're less likely to go to the emergency room. They're less likely to, especially for children, less likely to be exposed to lead or mold or asthma or any other triggers that will set off childhood illnesses. Yeah. So we know that that's an area that all of us can do more work together in.
Absolutely, and I want to make sure we spend some time on that in a minute, but I did want to give you the chance because you mentioned that, you know, your organization advocates both the state and federal level for policy that promotes the things you've just been talking about. So I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about Opportunity Starts at Home, which is a federal initiative that you're involved in.
Yeah, so we're the state partner for a really large multi-sector effort called Opportunity Starts at Home. So here in New Jersey, we're leading that campaign. At the federal level, it's a broad-based coalition to bring together teachers, labor allies, environmentalists, senior citizen advocates, other folks who care about having strong, vibrant communities and making sure that everyone has a safe place to live in a way that hasn't traditionally been done. So we're looking at the intersection of education and housing and what the impact of being homeless has on a child's education, or even on a teacher trying to teach children when a third of their classroom is constantly shifting. And the way that we dedicate resources, if we are looking at doing that in an efficient and smart way, making sure that someone has a safe, stable place to live, has a ripple effect on both the social experiences and the economy that we're all participating in. So if we're able to provide folks with a stable place to live, it has an impact on all of the other issues that we care about. So that Opportunity Starts at Home campaign has a number of legislative priorities, including the recently introduced Bipartisan Eviction Crisis Act, which would help keep people in their homes, do a better job collecting data on the impact of evictions, and also change some of the reporting requirements so that if a landlord pulls your credit in order to apply for an apartment, you'll actually know what's on your credit report so that you can check and make sure that that's accurate. We know that that is true for home buyers. It is not true right now for tenants. So there's a lot of work we can do together to make sure that families are in stable places to live.
Yeah. I think it's just terrific, that it's a multi-sector, as you said, and there's so many things that fall under it. And so this is an opportunity, there's strength in numbers, right? So this is an opportunity for both national and state organizations to sort of sign on to be a partner in this process. So people can visit your website for more information if they're with an organization that might like to join that effort.
Sure.
Terrific.
Thank you for asking, Melissa. Our website is www.hcdnj.org.
Terrific. And so we'll make sure people get there and that they can sign up to be part of Opportunity Starts at Home if they're with an organization that would. So you mentioned, the intersection between health and housing, and that's very important to us as an organization and a lot of the work that we do to make sure that seniors have affordable and accessible homes. So can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges or specific things that are happening right now that might have impact on older adults?
Well, we know that the cost of renting an apartment in New Jersey is really just out of control. We call it out of reach. That's our annual report that we release here in New Jersey that's produced by our national partners at the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. We were talking before the show started about the income that seniors have, I think you said the median is $44,000?
Yeah, the median income for someone 65 and over in New Jersey is about $44,000. Well, I really think it's great, all of the hard work that you and your staff do at the network in order to push a lot of these forward, and you know that I do really appreciate the health and housing focus, because that is really a big piece of what we do as well, and so it's a great partnership that we're able to have.
We appreciate all the work that you do. We do have a wonderful staff. We have a great team of folks in our office, and we're glad to be able to work closely with you.
So we want people to visit your website, not just for Opportunity Starts at Home, but for some of the other things, including signing up for the Healthy Homes Summit this spring. So. Thanks. And Diane, similarly, I'd like for you to sort of explain to our audience, because we hear Supportive Housing Association, and again, people might not know what that is or what that does, and furthermore, might not know what supportive housing means. So tell us first what your organization is and does, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about what supportive housing is and who it is.
So I think it's better if I do it the reverse.
Okay,
so
let
me just say that supportive housing is a philosophy that, yes, affordable housing is foundational, but for certain people, and for people with certain barriers, we need services too to keep them housed, to keep them healthy. As Stacy has said, that whole movement is great. But also that they will live their best lives and can live it independently with independent services. And those services can be tailored to their needs, because not everybody's the same and not everybody needs the same services. So that's the general philosophy around supportive housing, and the Supportive Housing Association of New Jersey really supports that whole industry and that whole notion. So our members are statewide. It's a nonprofit. We are a membership organization. Our members are organizations that provide services for people with special needs like mental health, addiction, people coming out of homelessness, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, veterans, seniors, I could go on, but many different people need different services, and all of our members either provide those services or build affordable housing or support affordable housing and financial institutions that invest in affordable housing. So it's a wide group of stakeholders, and it's a complex industry, but it's a necessary industry, and it was propelled by the idea that people didn't need to live in institutions. Before supportive housing came along as an industry, people were living in institutions, very, unnecessarily. And the idea that they can live in mainstream housing in communities where they, where they want to live is really a relatively new idea, but it's one that proves successful. So even the people with the most complex needs can live independently. So that it's really wonderful when it works, and it does work, and we have evidence that it works. So it's not rocket science. So and not only is it better for people and communities, which is paramount, but it's financially viable. It costs way more to have people in institutions than it does to live independently. So it's really a great industry, and I'm happy to work with it.
Yeah, and they're lucky to have you work with it. Much like Stacy's organization, in addition to being having this membership base, your organization is also providing your membership with sort of policy and legislative updates and trainings and different things, right?
Well, that's how we work. So we work by, first and foremost, providing the networking, because we're also siloed. You know, where funding comes in, departments develop around that. So you have the housing group, and then you have the services group. Within the services group, you have all those different slices and populations, but we put everybody together, and we refer each other, we do education around it, and we do advocacy, which is, and we do it at that level where we can see the cross issues, and we can lend our support to reinforce that.
Yeah. So you've done a really great job of sort of giving us an overview of what supportive housing means, because as I said, I don't think a lot of people really know. They hear it and they maybe have visions in their head of what it might encompass, but could you get a little bit more specific about how someone might access it and what the different avenues are to get supportive housing, different ways it's delivered, et cetera?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated, actually. It doesn't need to be, and some of our recommendations will go over that, but first of all, you can apply for affordable housing, the way we all know. You go to your local housing authority and you sign up for a list that, might put you on a list for affordable housing. Or you get services, and a lot of times people coming out of institutions or homelessness will go through a shelter or through an institution and come out of it by being recommended into supportive housing. So there's that. We certainly get recommendations from the state and intellectual and developmental, DDD division, and all of those things for people who are coming up and allowed to get services. So we'll get referrals. Our members will get referrals into that. So there's various ways, but the average person, it's certainly the average senior, finds that a very complex situation, and it's very difficult to navigate, and that's a big piece of what we hope we can change. Yeah.
As you said, it's supportive housing is great and it works, and we know that, but sort of where we sometimes stumble is the access, right? So New Jersey's had a great opportunity in both the aging space and in the developmental disability space of doing this, what they call money follows the person, right? Which is access, getting people out of nursing homes and institutions and into their own home. But the path there can sometimes be difficult, and so we want to make it easy for people.
Much easier. When people call me, and I get people who call me all the time, and I wish I could help every single one of them, as we all get those calls. But what I often will go is, I'll go through a little checklist. How old are you? Maybe I can get them help that way. Are you a veteran? Maybe I can get them help that way. Do you have a mental health issue? You're going through all these questions because there are different pockets, and maybe one of them will work for that person.
So you did mention recommendations, and thank you for saying that. So you were part of our working group and part of that coalition that brought together our report on these recommendations. Could you talk a little bit about maybe starting with some of the need we saw, and then maybe some overview of some of those recommendations that you mentioned?
It was great. I want to thank you and applaud the Foundation on Aging for putting those conversations together, because that's how it started, right? Conversations on housing. And we had certain people in the room, and you gathered a certain group, and then it just kind of grew from there. So we were able to bring in developers, and then we were able to bring in the area aging and the different various stakeholders at the state level. And really importantly, I think, and a little bit different, we were able to bring in municipalities like Montclair, very specific on the ground people seeing what's happening in different towns. And I think that really lent a different flavor to the conversations. And then what came out of that was, well, wait a minute, we've been talking about this now for about a year, but we all keep coming around to the same recommendations. And we put together, about 10 or 12, whatever they were, that really we thought were paramount. And the first one was, and we knew, I mean, the needs are there. Seniors want to stay in their houses. They don't have enough money. They're going on Social Security. It's way, you know, so $18,000 or whatever. What are you going to do there? They can't stay in their homes. The homes are now not accessible for them as their needs change over time. So there are all kinds of reasons for it. But, and of course, we're all getting older.
The plan.
As we say. So we're all going to need it, and it's that population is increasing. So those were the reasons. But in terms of the recommendations, first and foremost, an investment, as Stacey said, in affordable housing, which has been, you know, shortchanged for the last 10, 15 years. So now we're needing to put more money into that. And for supportive housing, we had an investment of $200 million at one point. That's been depleted for many years. So we're looking to reconstitute a very specific pocket of money for supportive housing, the housing we know that works. So that's one of the big things. Rental assistance. We're lucky to have a state that has state rental assistance. We have, of course, the Section 8 vouchers from the feds, but we also, and now we also have rental assistance for people with mental health and people with IDD. But we need more of that, and we need to also think about it holistically. So we need an investment in rental assistance, because the average person that certainly our organizations serve are on SSI. So that's $800 you know, a month. That's very low. They need a rental assistance voucher to help them pay the rent. And we know that works too. So we need an investment. And other than, we don't want to, and this happens when you silo everybody, is we don't want to cut the pie up differently. We don't want bigger, you know, more rental assistance for seniors at the expense of another population.
Absolutely.
So the pie needs to be bigger. I just, you know, we should just all, you know, lather, rinse, repeat that. The pie needs to be bigger, and that's a big thing. We talked a little bit about the difficulty in coming in. We would like to have a one-stop shop where someone could come in and say, here's all of my complex needs, and where can I get help? And have that be easy for people. So that's another recommendation. A needs assessment, just what is the need? We don't have a lot of that. We have pieces of it. We have the homeless count. We have, you know, some senior information, but we don't have a wide swath of data that could then allow us to make intelligent investments right across the board. So a needs assessment would be useful. So some of those were the recommendation, of course, accessibility. You know, really looking at how can we encourage landlords, the development of affordable housing, to always look to build accessible housing from the get-go. So to build it, yes, and then to retrofit it. So can we give people some money to retrofit their places? Can we encourage landlords in some way with a tax credit or whatever? But let's kind of make housing fit for people as they age.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great overview, because we really did focus on, you know, addressing that issue of access and where can people get information. And I think of importance, as you've mentioned, is that needs assessment. You know, the ability, because I think, as you and Stacey both mentioned, pieces of housing programs sit in different departments, right? And we tend to silo some things. And so that ability for the state to look at it as a whole, you know, and say, this is where our needs are, and without, as you referenced, the expense of another population. And so really figuring out what direction we need to go in terms of making sure that everyone can age well in the place that they'd like to, without too much difficulty. So I think that's a great piece of it. And you mentioned that we pulled into this group as we talked with stakeholders about different housing needs, specifically municipalities that were doing things to look at the needs. And so that brought Anne to us. You know, what the municipalities brought and their projects brought to that conversation was not only things happening at the local level and the work they were doing, but also a picture of the diverse needs. You know, people think about someone 65 and over and they just see one thing, but there are so many diverse needs within that population, right? We know that there are low-income seniors who have trouble paying their rent or staying in a place and making it affordable and accessible, and then there are middle-income older adults who have trouble figuring out where they're going to go next and how to stay in a high-cost state, right, Anne?
Absolutely.
So that's where we're going to head next, if you don't mind. But Anne, if you could tell us a little bit about your background and particular about how the Montclair Senior Citizen Advisory Committee came to be.
Well, I'm the only one here who's retired, okay?
But you know what? You're busy than most
I
working
am,
people I know.
And I stay young that way.
That's right.
The Montclair Senior Citizen Advisory Committee are people from the town, and you don't have to be retired to be on the committee, who are appointed by the township to help inform public policy decision. And it's beneficial because you're getting it from a group that is very close to the people who are in need. The home and health correlation is essential, and there are a lot of domains of livability that AARP has identified, and these are not trivial when you are over the age of 55 or 65. So when we talk about economic security and home security, we're not just talking about necessarily the financial. We're also talking about the supportive services. But I could bet that most of the people who are well, not most, but at 40 to 50% of the people who are in our town would hit your checklist and they wouldn't be able to qualify for the supportive services that you're offering. And so aging in place for me is problematic. While I understand that nursing homes are $120,000 a year and up, I also understand that there's a responsibility of the society to take the needs of the people who don't qualify for the low income and who will have to experience the same kind of challenges as they age. So what we did is we did a comprehensive survey in 2013 to get some data to see exactly where the population stood. We expected out of the 800 respondents that we were going to get a lot of people who were 70 and above. To our surprise, 50%, almost 50% of the respondents hadn't retired yet. And so it was a good data set to mine in terms of what are the needs going forward. Now these are baby boomers, and you know that they have shifted culture since they were born. And they're going to be shifting culture and perception about what it means to age as well. And I want to offer a slightly different perspective on the kind of housing that these people might prefer. They don't want to move. Stability is very important. They've been living in these communities for 30 years and more. They say that they have been paying taxes for 30 years and more, and they want to see something for themselves out of it. Senior freeze doesn't always help these people because their income is above the senior freeze cap. In fact, yesterday the new senior freeze cap came out. It's much higher now. It's $91,000, but still not the right cap for our seniors.
Just in case people watching don't know what the senior freeze is, what you're referring to is the tax reimbursement program for older adults through the state of New Jersey, which the new income guidelines, as you say, that just came out are 91, and that's the annual income you need to be under in order to qualify for the program. And though they call it a freeze, as we like to remind people, you still have to pay your taxes because one of the requirements of qualifying for the program is being up to date on paying. So you have to put the money out, and then you get reimbursed whatever the differences they deem between your what you pay and what your freeze is. So that's while it's a beneficial program for some, you're right, it doesn't reach far enough. As you say, there may be people above that guideline who are thinking about long term how long they can afford to stay where they are, and what their options are of where to move within the community they're in that would meet all of their needs, both financially, socially, accessibility-wise, all of those things. So I thank you for really painting a picture for us of that diverse need, because I don't want us to think constantly when we're talking about this that we're talking about one particular group of seniors or type of senior. There's a variety of need across our state, and so I think you've all done a great job of giving us an idea of what that picture is and how we can all come together to help. So I encourage everyone to please check out all of these organizations and the work they're doing. I know in addition to the Montclair Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, you also work closely with Lifelong Montclair, which is their age-friendly initiative in Montclair, doing a lot of great work at addressing all of those domains for livability and how we can better address that, including housing, right? So thank you, ladies, for all of your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation, and I hope that we can continue it in the future. So thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights. For more information and to watch previous episodes, please go to our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org and click on the Aging Insights page. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging and is made possible by sponsors and donations from viewers like you. To become an Aging Insights sponsor, please go to our website or call us at 609-421-0206. To find out about senior services in your area, please contact your County Office on Aging. Their numbers can be found on our website, or you can call the state hotline at 1-877-222-3737. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.